The Commanders are hosting an important free agent for a visit today. A couple of injuries making the start to the season easier. And who is the team's X factor in 2025? What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Full Command Show. My name is Grant Mitchell, and we're here to talk about everything involving the Washington Commanders. We did it. Guys, the background is back. We made it back home. The trip down to Georgia, the wedding, it's over. We're back home. My voice somehow still not better. This is like 8 or 9 days of being sick, but whatever. We're still back home, back in the good place, which means those daily uploads, they will resume. Multiple videos per day. We got all that great stuff. I'm gonna be getting prepared for the week 1 game against the Giants. I will be at the game, so I'm already talking about seeing if it's possible to even shoot some videos out there. There's a whole bunch of great stuff coming to this channel. So guys, if you are new around here, make sure you do hit that subscribe button. Make sure you are locked in for all of the upcoming content. Like I teased at the top of the show, we do have a lot to talk about today. We're talking about a receiver free agent who is on his way to Dulles as we speak. Got a couple of injuries to the Commanders' first 2 opponents and some thoughts from ESPN's experts. We're about to dive into all of that in 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Kendrick Bourne, most recently of the New England Patriots, formerly of the San Francisco 49ers, had a meeting with the 49ers yesterday. He did not sign a deal, which means that he is still currently a free agent, and he posted a picture of him on his way to Dulles. As we knew, the Commanders had arranged a meeting with Bourne today, Tuesday, and it's possible by the end of the day that he does sign with the Commanders or the 49ers, but we're not going to talk about that. You know, Kendrick Bourne's not the biggest name in the whole world, but he is a serviceable player. He can line up outside the numbers. 80% of his snaps last year, he played out wide. He's going to be playing the Z primarily, which means that if he does sign for Washington, he would be backing up Noah Brown and in some cases, Deebo Samuel. Rarely, occasionally, Terry McLaurin, if Terry needs a break, especially early in the season when Terry's probably not playing his full availability of snaps. But he could get on the field. He's not a high usage player. He's not going to be winning a bunch of contested balls or deep routes. That being said, he only dropped 4 passes over the last 3 seasons. So if you can get the ball in his direction, has proven to have a fairly reliable, safe pair of hands. And we saw what we saw what a late receiver addition did for the team last year with Noah Brown. It really opened up the offense, and the receiver position is in a better spot now than it was last season. But that being said, you can never make a strength too strong. So Kendrick Bourne, hopefully he does end up signing for the team. A deal is able to be worked out, and we can be watching him wearing the burgundy and gold this year. Now, the injuries that I mentioned, these are particularly interesting because they're to an NFC East opponent and a former NFC East opponent. Let's start with Andrew Thomas. Andrew Thomas is a former first-round draft pick of the New York Giants. He is their starting left tackle. And as we all know, the left tackle is everything in professional football. Now, Mr. Thomas here suffered a Lisfranc foot injury in week 6 of last season. He's actually still dealing with the effects of that. He only passed his physical on August 21st, but that does not mean that he's ready to play immediately. In fact, he hasn't gone through any team drills at all. Here's what he said last Thursday, quote, "I want to be back, but if I don't feel comfortable to be able to perform at the level I think I can, I don't think it makes sense for me to be out there." He's going to be going through a walkthrough before the game, but there is a very sharp difference between a walkthrough and going full speed in an NFL game against a divisional rival on the road. And having not done any team drills, as it stands, I am not expecting him to play. If he does, it's a total sign of desperation by the Giants. And they say that you can't lose your season. You can't lose or win your season in week 1. But let's look at the Giants' schedule here because it's actually kind of insane. So the Giants' first 8-9 games, they go at excuse me. The Giants, they go at Commanders, at Cowboys, Chiefs, Chargers, at Saints is the first easy game they have, but it is on the road. Eagles, at Broncos, at Eagles, 49ers, Bears, Packers, at Lions, at Patriots, Commanders, Vikings, at Raiders, Cowboys. They've got one easy game against the Saints that we don't know they're definitively better than, even though I think they are. And their next easiest game is what? At Raiders. And I actually think the Raiders could be okay this year. I think they could be 7-10, something like that. This is a brutal schedule. They could start 1-7. They could start 1-10. So, and it would honestly not reflect anything about the Giants' quality as a team. That's just an insane schedule. That's one of the toughest schedules that I've ever seen. So, in my opinion, what is the point of rushing Andrew Thomas back in week 1? This is still a younger player that you want to be around for the long term, a guy who could be a cornerstone piece of your franchise. So why are you going to rush him back to week 1? I don't think he's going to end up playing. And that's bad news for the Giants because Thomas was 26th in Pro Football Focus's tackle rankings, which if you account for the left and the right side means he averaged out at about 13th. So he was a little above average for his position. The Giants' other tackles were 53rd and 58th. The Giants were also 26th in pass block win rate and 27th in run blocking win rate. So I say all of this to say that while it's probably smart for Thomas to not play, it's definitely going to deal a blow to an offensive line that was already pretty awful. And yes, the Giants have tried to make it an emphasis to reconfigure that and make them more competitive. But we know the Commanders are going to bring pressure. Joe Witt Jr. has made that abundantly clear. And if they're bringing 5-man rushes every third down and you got backup tackles in there against an offensive line that was downright putrid last year, well, that's a matchup that does favor the Commanders. So while we like the Commanders offense over the Giants defense, I think there's still some questions about the Commanders defense, and this would go a long way to helping them. You're going to have to forgive my voice, guys. I'm really trying my best here. Like I said, I'm past being sick, but some of the effects are still lingering in my body. So my voice is still a little raspy, but we're working on it. The other injury that I wanted to talk about is Micah Parsons. He is dealing with an L4, L5 facet joint sprain in his back. I don't really know what that means, but apparently it's some sort of sprain and it creates back tightness. So he's trying to play in the Packers regular season opener against the Detroit Lions. However, it's unclear if he will be or not. He could also need regular epidurals throughout the season. Now, I bring this up even though Micah isn't in the NFC East anymore because the Commanders do play the Packers on the road on Thursday Night Football in week 2. So there's a chance that Micah makes his season debut, Packers debut against the Commanders. And on one hand, Micah has terrorized the Commanders. If you look at who's they've given up the most sacks to, the most pressures to, Micah Parsons leads the chart. So he is familiar with this team. Although that being said, it's a rework team. You got Larry Tunsil on the left, Josh Connolly on the right. Obviously, as we know, it's a rework team. And Micah, on the one hand, he would be fresh if he doesn't play against the Lions, but then he would also not have the game sharpness. Whereas you could put him out there against the Lions and he's ready to go because he's gotten the reps by the time week 2 comes around. But that being said, it's a short week. It's very limited rest, and he's already dealing with this back injury. So I don't know how the Packers are going to play out this situation. And I honestly don't know which is more preferable for the Commanders. But I did just want to put it out there that Micah does appear to be pretty significantly banged up if he's going to need regular epidurals to get through the season. So certainly something to keep an eye on. His availability could be in jeopardy, and we will update that story as the days go by and things become more clear. Now let's talk about ESPN. So they've got they weighed in on a couple of things. The first one, they gave a bold prediction for the Commanders season, and then they picked an X factor. So this first article by the NFL Nation reporters, John Keim and Seth Walder, were mentioned in this one. They went through the biggest strength, the biggest concern, and a bold prediction. So the biggest strength, no question here. Jayden Daniels, that's who they listed. Their biggest concern, which I do think is valid, was offensive chemistry. They mentioned the McLaurin Holden, the Noah Brown injury, the Brandon Coleman and Sam Cosmi injuries. There hasn't been a lot of time for the offense to gel. And Cliff Kingsbury himself said that either a week or 2 weeks ago, whenever he gave that press conference where he basically called out Terry, said, hey, you got to get to practice. He said that things are moving slowly and we don't have a lot of reps together and we're still trying to figure out where we are with everything. So that leads in well to the bold prediction. This is from Seth Walder. He said, quote, the Commanders will finish below 500. Sure, they could continue their ascent, but there are a lot of ways the season could go sideways for the Commanders. The aging defense with a lack of pass rush could fail them. Injury or decline could strike McLaurin. Their receiving group is weak behind him, or Daniels' early down numbers from a season ago, which were only average, could be an indication of who he is going forward. Now, that last part there is that's disrespectful. I will say that. Jayden's early down numbers were average. That part is correct. But to say that could be an indication of who he is moving forward, well, if he was getting lucky on the late downs, yeah, sure. For him to have converted at such a historic efficiency and to make plays on his own in the face of a poor offensive line with limited receiver options and limited running back support, and to use all of that to go on a run to the NFC Championship game. Like, let's not pretend as if we didn't see what we just saw. You know what I mean? Yes, his early down stuff wasn't great, but that was kind of the Commanders. That was the game they were playing. They also weren't willing to take a bunch of huge risks because they knew they had to win the turnover battle more times than not to win games. Every once in a while, you're going to have the outlier, like that second Philadelphia game where they turned it over 5 times and still won. But when they turned it over however many, 3-4 times against the Eagles in the championship game, well, you saw what happened there. It was the Austin Eckler fumble around the 50-yard line, where if that doesn't happen, the Commanders are probably making it a 3-point game in the fourth quarter. And that's the difference between a 3-point game and a 32-point game. So ball security was huge for them. And we're not going to, just because they were a little more conservative on the early downs, we're not going to pretend as if Jayden wasn't that dude. Now, that being said, this prediction of the Commanders going below 500, I have seen a lot of people talk about this. And I'll be honest, for a little bit, I entertained the idea because Laramie Tunsil's coming off of seemingly the worst year of his last 4 or 5 years of his career. There was the Terry stuff. There was the Noah Brown stuff. A lot of uncertainty with Brandon Coleman, Sam Cosmi's injury. But the pieces have started to fall back into place. And I believe Jayden is going to be, at the very worst, the same guy he was last year. And last year, he was a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. So I don't think this sub 500 thing is going to come into play. ESPN actually, I don't know how they did this, but they ran some projections through a computer model, and they had the Commanders going 7-10. Again, I think that was computer, not individual. And that does give some, that actually gives it some more credence because the computer is usually right. But that being said, that could have just been one simulation, which could be a total outlier versus 1,000, which means you're going to get more of an average. So I don't really know. But that being said, while we're talking about the ESPN here, we are going to close out this video by talking about who they picked as their X factor. Now, this is from Ben Solak, who said that the man himself is, you have any guesses? Give you a couple seconds here, build the anticipation. He said the Commanders' biggest X factor in 2025 is one Deebo Samuel, a first-timer in the burgundy and gold. He's used to wearing the red, but burgundy and gold, this is going to be his first year playing for the team. So for him to already be named the X factor does show what he could possibly bring to the team if he is at his best, the potential that he raises the Commanders' offensive ceiling even higher than it was last year. But if he doesn't play well, then that's obviously going to be a big swing and a big miss. Well, maybe not a big swing because the Commanders only traded a 5th-round draft pick for him. So maybe an average swing and a big miss. So here's what Ben Solak had to say about Deebo Samuel. He said, quote, "Samuel was already an intriguing player when the Commanders traded for him. A wide receiver barely ever used down the field, best creating after the catch and beyond his athletic prime, but perhaps with some seasons left in the tank. As things have developed further, the recently resolved training camp holdout from McLaurin and the lack of wide receiver depth, Samuel has become even more important. The Commanders expect to spread and shred the field again, so Samuel figures to get consistently 6 or 7 touches a game as a backfield option or receiver on run-pass options. They need him to be dynamic, and while he wasn't the same player last season as he was prior to that, he's still above average. Samuel was 12th among all skill position players in yards after catch over expectation. If Samuel doesn't bring the juice, the Commanders' options to replace his unique role are understandably thin." Now, that part is correct, that there's not a lot of Deebo Samuels run around the NFL. That being said, let's not act as if the offense is totally reliant on Samuel's role. If this year doesn't go well and they release him and they dip into the draft and take someone in the first round, well, they're just going to throw the ball on more regular passing concepts. You don't need this person who is half running back, half receiver, can play the slot, can play outside, can play in the backfield, can do all these things. Is it a luxury? Sure. And it creates a bunch of uncertainty in the defense. Particularly, it allows you to hunt different matchups. If Deebo is lined up outside and you motion him into the backfield and the defense is playing man coverage, you might have just created a favorable matchup. Vice versa. If you come out with Deebo in the backfield and then you swing him out wide and you go empty and now you've got him isolated one-on-one with a linebacker, you've just created a favorable matchup there as well. You also know that Deebo's led the NFL in yards after catch in 4 straight seasons. So if you get the ball in his hands on jet sweeps, bubble screens, tunnel screens, anything like that, he's going to do a lot of damage. So it certainly does help from the schematic unpredictability standpoint, but I don't think that the future is dependent upon Deebo having a good year this year. But it certainly would be a huge help for him to go out there and ball out. Guys, like I said, I am starting to feel better, but my voice is still trying to recover. I do apologize for any of the coughing, any of the throat clearing throughout this video. I'm doing my best to get you guys these videos like I promised I would, and we do have daily uploads returning to the channel. So make sure you do hit the like button on this video if you enjoyed. Go to the comment section, leave me your thoughts on everything I said. Hit the subscribe button if you did enjoy, and as always, I will catch you in the next one. Have a great day.